I'm now going to ask my distinguished panellists to come up to the stage and take their seats. While they do that, I'll just remind us that we are looking here at one particular application that we believe has really come to prominence last year in terms of awareness. I think probably it's this year onwards that it will start to generate real revenues for different types of operators. And that's Wi-Fi calling. I'm not going to say too much about it in advance, but it's almost a return to voice. We've had a situation for many years where wireless voice was either cellular and controlled and circuit switched, or it was purely over the top, like Skype. On the cellular side, voice over LTE, and now for everyone, voice over Wi-Fi. We have something in the middle, it's controlled by an IMS, by the carrier's IP system. So it has all those kind of QoS elements to it that you expect from mobile voice. But it runs over Wi-Fi, so its application is far wider. I'm going to let our panellists tell us a lot more than I can about this. But let me introduce, I think, are we missing one?
Yes. Tom.
We can start without.
Yeah, carry on.
Should we just carry on with, we'll carry on with these sturdy three, and we may get the other two at some point, I don't know. No worries. But anyway, I'm going to let the panellists introduce themselves, because as I say, I want to try and finish as close as we can to the scheduled time. I think we've caught up a little bit already. But I'm extremely pleased to welcome, well, the ones we do have: Mark Lipford from Sprint, Johan Terve from Aptilo, and Dave Wright from Ruckus Wireless. I'm going to ask the panellists in turn to spend a couple of minutes introducing themselves and their company, and if you could, I'd like you to make one statement, as strong or controversial as you like, about what you believe to be the importance of Wi-Fi calling, because I think that will help set the tone of the debate to follow. And then we'll go into some general discussion about the issues arising, and of course open up to the floor for questions. And if anyone has a burning question at any point through, please feel free to put your hand up and interject. I'd like to keep these things fairly informal, so similarly for the panellists, don't wait your turn, just dive in with whatever you'd like to say. I'm going to actually sit down.
We can start. Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me here. I'm Mark Lipford with Sprint. Been in the wireless industry, I think, since Mobile was created back in '87. So I'm on my 5th generation of wireless. I'm currently a member of the Small Cell Forum Board of Directors, as well as past history on several different technology boards throughout the industry, steering committees. Got experience pretty much from turning the screws in the cell sites up through the standards and planning sections of the industry. Sprint is, of course, the number 3 carrier in the U.S. We're involved in numerous organizations. I think at last count, I'm responsible for over 25 different organizations that my team is involved in. Of course, we have both wireline and wireless services, even though the wireless is our predominant interest right now. We still do have a strong nationwide fiber backbone and one of the large internet providers in the U.S. We're serving more than 56 million people at last count. And our current LTE coverage is around 180 million pops. We've recently announced a Wi-Fi roaming agreement with Boingo. It's going to be serving, I think it's 35 airports initially, and hopefully we can extend that and include a stronger coverage. We're excited about that. And on the Wi-Fi calling front, we've recently announced Wi-Fi calling for most of our Android devices, as well as the iPhone 5C up through the 6 Plus. Actually, we have a demonstration out at the WBA booth. If you welcome you to stop by and check it out, it's working quite well. This is our first WBA meeting, so we're kind of excited to be here and not sure what to expect, but we really do see a need to continue to progress in the Wi-Fi calling space and the QoS space, the ability for smart decisions as far as selecting Wi-Fi over cellular. So just because Wi-Fi is there, you know, can it meet the QoS requirements and provide the level of voice quality that is necessary? So that's one of the things we really hope to dig into here and participate in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave?
So I'm Dave Wright. I'm an advanced technologist at Ruckus Wireless, focusing on the carrier and public Wi-Fi markets, or wireless markets, I should say. So some of the sort of emerging and future technologies that I'm focusing on currently would include Hotspot 2.0, specifically Release 2, and some of the follow-ons even potentially after Release 2, Wi-Fi calling, LTE and unlicensed spectrum, the different proposals. Don't ask me questions about that, even though you may not have had your questions answered from the last panel. And then the last thing I was going to mention was 11AC, and specifically with the second generation of 11AC, the multi-user MIMO capability. So those are pretty much the things I'm focusing on now. As a Wi-Fi infrastructure vendor and the leading supplier to the carrier market, we're certainly interested in the optimizations of the Wi-Fi access network to support Wi-Fi calling. And voice over Wi-Fi isn't really a new technology. As others have noted, we've been doing it with app-based approaches and even UMA-based approaches from some operators for some number of years now. So there are a lot of optimizations that are already in the equipment, but the carrier Wi-Fi calling, quote unquote, with the IR92 and typically the EPDG path, there's some nuances to that, and we're certainly looking at how to further sort of differentiate and provide better solutions to the market for that. We see linkages between a number of these technologies, so we certainly think that Hotspot 2.0, and obviously that's been a primary focus of the WBA for a number of years. We feel like Hotspot 2.0 is a foundational technology and enabling technology for Wi-Fi calling. It's hard to make a call if you're not on the network. Hotspot 2.0 gets you on the network. Hopefully we'll also be able to leverage Hotspot 2.0 to give the client some more intelligence about whether to connect, specifically if it wants to make a call. So we'd like to see some of the enhancements to include the WAN metrics and things like that in AMQP. And then multi-user MIMO. We actually feel that multi-user MIMO, because of the sort of common packet length with our DP packets and whatnot, there's, we think, a good chance that Wi-Fi calling clients will be optimal for multi-user grouping. And I'd love to talk to you more about that offline. So there's some interesting things going on.
Okay, so thank you for having me here. I'm Johan Terve. I'm VP Marketing at Aptilo Networks. Aptilo Networks is the leader of carrier Wi-Fi service management. We have 100 plus carrier Wi-Fi customers in 70 countries. We have been focusing on this and only this ever since Wi-Fi was in diapers back in 2001. And in the Wi-Fi calling space, we have nothing to do with IMS or the VoIP service as such, but we have everything to do with the authentication and policy control of the Wi-Fi calling service. Customers, they love us because we are vendor agnostic. So we partner with leading vendors like Alcatel-Lucent, Aris, Ericsson, and Ruckus. And we do IoT and have deployments with most other vendors out there that counts, including, of course, Cisco. I was asked to take a statement on Wi-Fi calling. I would say Wi-Fi calling is really a game changer for mobile operators. And now I'm talking about what we refer to as next generation Wi-Fi calling. Because exactly as you said, VoIP over Wi-Fi has been around for a long time. But if we talk about this new next generation Wi-Fi calling, where you have built-in support in the devices, that is really a game changer for many aspects for mobile operators, for sure. And one other thing that is for sure is that they will need us in the vendor community to really come up with really good and innovative solution to make this work even better in real-world deployments. Because what we have learned from our many deployments in the data side is that you always need to go beyond the standards to make it really work smoothly in real-world deployments. So thank you.
Thank you. And just in perfect timing, glad to introduce also Tom Bennett from EE. Tom, can I just ask you to spend a couple of couple of minutes introducing yourself and giving a quick positioning, as Johan just did, on Wi-Fi calling, and then we'll go into the panel debate.
Okay. My apologies for being late. So Tom Bennett, Director for Technology Services and Devices at DE, and we launched our Wi-Fi calling service the week after Easter. My job, being honest, is the Director for Delivering of New Technology Services and Products that we take to market, sometimes called the Director for Toys. So it's quite a fun job. And to the point you were making, I think, yes, voice over Wi-Fi is absolutely a game changer for us. When we looked at voice over Wi-Fi, when we looked at IMS more importantly, I mean, all operators need to invest in IMS, particularly once you've launched our 4G path. The reality is VoLTE is a benefit in the main to the operator, not to the customer. But for the same invest of all that time, energy and money into IMS technology, you can give the customers an early benefit with voice over Wi-Fi. And then the VoLTE story builds off that, because with voice over Wi-Fi seamless handover to VoLTE, that's a customer benefit. Customers get the best network for smartphones. I don't know about any of you, but I've spent a lot of time travelling, that's why I'm late. And yeah, you still do end up on 2G with circuit switched, and that can be quite frustrating as a regular smartphone user. So to have my 4G full smartphone experience, that's for me what then is the promise of VoLTE with voice over Wi-Fi.
Thank you. I mean, I'd like to pick up that point immediately, I think, and push it back to Sprint, who to me sound a little more cautious about voice over Wi-Fi. Would you agree it's a game changer, or is it something, and how does it fit with VoLTE in your strategy?
Okay, good question. Yes, it is a game changer. I mean, and it allows the mobile operators the opportunity to enhance their coverage because of having access to the Wi-Fi networks, and it improves the customer experience. And that alone reduces churn. So it's going to be a more positive benefit to the operators. I think the other part of your question was around VoLTE. Sprint hasn't made an announcement on VoLTE yet, but it will definitely play a critical part in that as well. I mean, it helps us with our IMS infrastructure right now, testing that out as we're running through our VoLTE Wi-Fi and or voice over Wi-Fi, and I think it'll integrate well with it.
The issue that always arises, even with an IMS-based voice over Wi-Fi, is quality of service, isn't it? You know, we've all been used to circuit switch voice and the tight control of that. So I wonder what both the vendors and the operators feel is the quality of service there, and what needs to be done to improve it, because voice is, we've heard lots of anecdotes around today about the sheer amount of infrastructure, of Wi-Fi infrastructure you need to deliver quality of service on voice as opposed to data. And I can already see that Johan sounds like that. So please go first. But
yeah, I'm quite eager here because it's a funny discussion really, and it's an odd discussion in my mind, because if you base your cellular voice experience on macro base stations only, you don't really have any quality of service indoors anyways in modern buildings in many places. I mean, some windows can shield by 30 decibels or so. I'm not the expert in the radio side, obviously, but what that means, people have told me, is that if you have 1 watt on the outside, you will have 1 milliwatt on the inside. So what kind of quality of service will that be really? So another thing is that I think Wi-Fi calling primarily really is for the residential area. I mean, avoiding to have to pull in equipment there as an operator is a huge benefit for them, and they can use the network that is already there. I mean, if we talk about the stadium or a dense area like a stadium, shopping mall, etc., maybe you're better off deploying some small cells there. So it's not black and white. So I would say the quality of service issue, I don't think it's a practical problem, to be honest, especially not in the residential areas. And I think my friend at Ruckus can also talk about the ways that exist to really control quality of service if you own the network as an operator. Because we need to differentiate between this.
yes.
for the first time, operators can use a network that is not theirs. And there, obviously, they will have no quality of service controls or whatever. But if they do own a Wi-Fi network, there are possibilities to do some quality of service activities there. Agree?
Segue, Dave.
Agreed. So I would say that the enemies of packet voice in general are latency, loss, and jitter. I mean, this has been the case for however long we've been doing packet voice. And Wi-Fi or voice over Wi-Fi is no different. It's simply that with Wi-Fi, since we're using unlicensed spectrum, we've got to be very careful and proactive in managing that spectrum. Ruckus and other vendors have a number of mechanisms where we certainly try to make sure that we're operating on the best channel, channel selection, channel adaptation. So if I start off on one channel and all of a sudden it becomes saturated, move my service set to a better operating channel. We have technologies in that space. So there are optimizing, self-organizing capabilities in the Wi-Fi to help mitigate against interference. And then the other thing we would say is you need to optimize the RF link itself, and that's certainly what we do. Our whole differentiation typically is around providing a better signal to the client using our smart antenna arrays. So that's the first thing you can do is simply just optimize the path. Then in those situations where congestion does occur, of course you need to manage it. And again, there are QoS mechanisms. The Wi-Fi Alliance has a number of specifications and even a certification called Voice Enterprise, which includes the wireless multimedia specifications, WPA2 Enterprise, and other things to ensure that you are providing the best quality of service for that Wi-Fi traffic and making sure it doesn't get set up or slowed down because it's waiting for some large file transfer to go through. So all of that does exist. We just need to see consistent implementation across the clients for support for that. And then just real quickly, I would also allude to the support for AP to AP roaming. So there's the 11K R&V specifications to ensure that as clients move through the Wi-Fi network, you also have a continuity of service experience there. That's what I'd say at a high level. I do agree with your point, though. I think, to a certain extent, over the last 15 years, the expectations of both packet voice and macrocellular voice, especially indoors, the expectations are a little bit lower.
Perhaps there's, your point that we can sometimes have very bad voice quality, so it's indoors, but that's been an operator decision, hasn't it? Not to, for whatever reason, they haven't necessarily felt they needed to provide that. Nowadays, there's a lot more focus on putting cellular solutions indoors, isn't there, and improving overall QoS. So I'm wondering, perhaps the mobile operators can comment whether having voice over Wi-Fi inside can reduce the investment that's required in femtocells, DAOs, whatever it is that you use to get that quality of service inside of buildings.
No, absolutely. I mean, we have been a provider of femtocells for a number of years, and I think we have well over 1 million out in the market, but we're also looking at, with our voice over Wi-Fi opportunity, maybe it's better just to provide a good quality, router access point, and when you're in your home, you're using a voice over Wi-Fi service, as well as now you've got your wireless access to for all your laptops and everything else. So we are definitely interested and are pursuing that as an alternative for in-home voice.
I think operators will always need an array of tools for the situation. Absolutely, in the home, the vast majority of modern homes are going to have Wi-Fi, and yes, this is a great panacea for that specific use case. To your point, once you get above small enterprises, you're still going to need something with the complexity and knowledge of how to control the number of subscribers and give them the right quality of service. Ultimately, that's cellular. So you're going to need some form, be it a femto or something in-built solution. And operators are always going to have that problem. To your point, yes, modern building techniques, modern building regulations, they have strict emissions control, the same emissions control that stop the signal getting in. And that's just something as a society we're going to have to cope with, and in particular as operators, therefore we need that toolkit. As regards your original question on QoS, I think QoS logistically works. We know it works, we've got it out, we're doing our engineering trials, we're vaulting out. Cure West to the customer is also then a combination of what we do in the network space, what undoubtedly the vendors will do in the network space and the Wi-Fi space, and what the modem and device vendors are going to be doing, because they're constantly sampling and they're going to ultimately make the decision over which bearer to use. So it's got to be an ecosystem approach.
And I don't know, I'm curious on your experience here, because as we all know, Apple was the pioneers in this field on the device side, and they are very secreted, at least to us, what they really are doing. But what we have seen in the T-Mobile, sorry for saying that, but we started with that, with the accounts we have there. We have seen a tendency where the device itself is smart. It doesn't automatically just connect to Wi-Fi calling just because they have a Wi-Fi connection. And now this is a new thing really, because before in the data side we have honestly had a problem with the unconditional love Wi-Fi. Devices have Wi-Fi, so they switch over to Wi-Fi no matter what. But in Wi-Fi calling, actually, they are first connected to Wi-Fi, and it is a possibility for the device to probe sort of the throughput in the Wi-Fi and other things before it turns on the Wi-Fi calling. So we have the suspicions that they have some sort of at least simplified probe first before they connect, but I cannot confirm that. I don't know if you have any information on that.
I can't confirm, but what I would say to you is working with the likes of Qualcomm, similar problem. You do need to understand the quality of the bearer to make the decision as to whether it's LTE, VoLTE, or the Wi-Fi. Effectively the same technology and the same service bearer, but yes, that intelligence needs to go into the modem stack to be able to detect and say, okay, it's not just on DD, it's got to be on bandwidth, latency, and a few other KPIs. And that intelligence will need to be built into the modem. It will need to come over time.
Caroline, to your original question about, does Wi-Fi calling sort of change the equation about licensed indoor coverage or the need for it? I think there are a lot of indoor venues out there that have not been economically viable for DAS deployments. They simply don't justify the expense of the DAS, right? So, small cells has been sort of what we've been waiting on there, but even today there's still some issues around neutral host support with enterprise licensed small cells. We're certainly looking at ways to solve that. But Wi-Fi calling is inherently a neutral host technology, so we do think for some venues, I think there's going to end up with tiers of access where some people need a traditional DAS, they just got the density of clients there that makes sense. Small cells will handle maybe larger enterprise, medium enterprises, and then Wi-Fi calling may meet the need for a lot of the smaller enterprises.
Makes sense. Let's open up to the floor. Do we have any questions? Oh, good. I can see. If we have the mic, there's some gentleman at the front, and then after him, 3 rows back from him, 3 or 4.
Eric Schaefer from Comcast. So as legacy wireless carriers, are you worried that it's really hard for me to understand the business model for voice over Wi-Fi? And then ultimately, as you move your traffic onto other people's networks, are you worried it continues to disintermediate you as a potential wireless carrier and provides more value in that other network?
That would maybe
Please.
geared towards me a little bit, I guess. No, we're not exactly worried about moving the traffic over. We see it as a providing the quality that the customer needs and meeting the customer's requirements. We're still providing the services piece of it. We would look at the Comcast as an example as the bearer pipe for it. So I think there's still, we can still manage the customer's experience, still provide them their rich set of services, and I think it's more of a partnership.
Yeah, I'm going to comment as an operator. I don't think it's a particularly doomsday scenario, quite the opposite. Since a month since our launch, hundreds of thousands of customers on and using voice over Wi-Fi. To be perfectly honest, they use voice over Wi-Fi. They're registered in the evening, but most of us make phone calls during the day, and during the day they're on the cellular network. This is, if anything, at least to a consumer market, is a convenience. It's us upping the service game to our customers. To your original point about traffic, it depends who owns the Wi-Fi. But significantly, is there any extra traffic going on? Well, we're allowing our customers to make calls in places they couldn't before. Fundamentally, they're going to use voice over Wi-Fi because we didn't have cellular coverage. So I don't see it as being robbing off of cellular particularly.
I also think that, as we talked about before, the technology has really been here for a long, long time. So why is this happening right now? I would say, I think the primary reason is that many mobile operators have moved into flat fee voice. Many mobile operators have moved into very low roaming tariffs. So there is no voice revenue to protect. So really, that's why this is happening now. It's not a technology breakthrough, it's a business model breakthrough. And a mobile operator then that has a flat fee voice in their subscriptions, it's really all about customer retention, isn't it? Please help me out there. Yeah.
Best customer service.
Right. And the ones that is still on per minute, they will actually be able to gain additional revenue because all of a sudden customers can make calls from new places that they haven't been able to do calls before. So, this is mostly a business model and an evolution in the business models in the business, not the technology breakthrough, as I see it as.
I'm reminded of JR's comment this morning that voice and SMS have largely been commoditized, and so they give it, which really means they've changed to a sort of line access model where you get unlimited voice and texting with that line access fee. And to my mind, it's a matter of also protecting against the loss of that subscriber whenever they're not on your licensed network, right? Because that's sort of what happened with SMS originally, and now we've got WhatsApp is 20 billion messages a day, and I think WhatsApp is 30 billion, and global SMS is 20 billion. So do we want the same thing to happen with voice, or do we want to retain that subscriber when they're off of our network, when they're maybe traveling internationally, when they're in their home? With Wi-Fi calling, you can capture that user experience. So.
Yeah, absolutely. The gentleman who had his hand. Oh, good, he's got that. Oh.
So, hi, I'm Bennett from Smart Switch. I was just wondering, it was touched on briefly about the device, the technology in the device and the choices the device makes. Maybe some operator views on whether or not the devices are doing enough today. And around that, are we seeing Wi-Fi calling kind of more of a nomadic experience or a real mobile experience? Because it's more than just switching between Wi-Fi and cellular. It's which Wi-Fi am I on? Home Wi-Fi, which doesn't really have any QoE controls around it necessarily, may not. And then when you're making choices, great technologies out there, AMQP, to be able to probe the network before making selections and so on, but I don't see them out there being used by the device to actually be intelligent enough to know this is the right order, this is the right priority, this is what I need to sustain this call the most, and I can sample the whole network to tell that. But I'd be interested to know how it stands today and are the devices moving in the right direction?
Again, yes, as the M&O up here. No, I don't think the devices are doing enough today. I was talking to someone earlier where I was on a Wi-Fi network at a fairly significant organization in the south of France a few weeks ago, and my Wi-Fi calling was horrible. It was a horrible experience. The signal was strong. We know that organization has great connectivity into their building, but it wasn't working. I had to switch the circuit, and I have to manually do that because there's not enough intelligence in the device to realize it. One of the things I think, you say there are a number of different options out there for that. That's the problem. There are options out there for that. There's nothing that's been said, let's do it this way so that you can, the network and the device can work together. So I think that is a key item that needs to be worked on.
I think it's a roadmap. And I think it's about setting a common goal for the ecosystem. Yes, there's tools out there. No, I don't think it's standard. Somebody made the point earlier, this is pre-standardization, to be frank. And sometimes you need to go beyond that. So you work with your partners, in this particular case the modem manufacturers, and you recommend a service when you know it's good enough for the specific use cases you want to take to market. Yes, there's going to be other use cases. And on that roadmap, on that vision, you're going to overlay VoLTE, you're going to overlay SRVCC, and over time the modems themselves will become more intelligent. Right here, right now, I wouldn't be sat there shouting at Samsung and Apple saying, oh, you didn't use this technology. Well, actually, you know what, voice over Wi-Fi works for the use cases that we all defined and agreed that would work for. So could it get better? Well, yes, absolutely, it is going to get better.
Mobile, yeah, somebody asked a question earlier about, is this a mobile technology? I mean, mobile is, and yes, I walk through my office and I'm getting handed off AP to AP. Mobile, I'm driving down I-95 in my car, 65 miles per hour. No, certainly not. So.
Another question. Yes, at the back.
Hi, Carlos De Silva from PCW Global. I have two quick questions. One, going back to the voice business, Google is coming up with a new model where they sell a phone, not sold by the mobile operator. They sell a voice plan, which is primarily a Google voice plan, and it happens to use a mobile network when Wi-Fi is not available. With the promotion of Wi-Fi even by the mobile operators, are you concerned that the model will evolve where it won't be MNOs that are use Wi-Fi for a little bit, but the Wi-Fi voice providers, Google or others, that use the MNO network when there is no Wi-Fi available? Is that a concern of going even more and faster into a dumb pipe situation? It's the first question. Second question that has nothing to do, but I haven't heard so far about security and Wi-Fi. There are attacks like man in the middle. There's several attacks that are relatively easy to implement in Wi-Fi. Aren't you concerned of the consequences of the public being more aware of these attacks? Sorry. And why not pushing the MNO data, which is more secure, more private than public Wi-Fi? Why aren't MNOs in 4G pushing that as a value add for users?
Quite a lot there. Start with.
I guess it was a question for the
Yeah. Which of you wants
I'll take the security question, but in a biz model question, maybe.
You did the security one first.
All right. So, yeah, it's actually quite interesting. So Republic Wireless, and I happen to have one of the phones here. So if you want to play with the Republic Wireless phone, it's right here. So they're a US wireless first, or Wi-Fi first operator that does exactly what you were suggesting. Routes everything over Wi-Fi, and then they fall back to and be in a relationship with Sprint when they don't have Wi-Fi coverage. And they, to my mind, they don't encrypt the voice traffic today. So that's actually a differentiation with the carrier Wi-Fi calling, is the traffic is encrypted between the UE or the smartphone and the EPDG. It sets up an IPsec tunnel back to, which is authenticated by the HSS, eBKA authentication. So you have that encryption basically through the IPsec tunnel between the station and the mobile core. And then we would also, to your point about Wi-Fi being susceptible to various eavesdropping attacks, man in the middle attacks, that's again where I think there's a strong tie between Hotspot 2.0 and Wi-Fi calling. So Hotspot 2.0, we all know with release 1, it brings WPA2 encryption, so AES 128 encryption to the Airlink. With release 2, the Wi-Fi Alliance is implementing an entire PKI infrastructure. So all of the network infrastructure components will have to chain back to root CAs, and the certs on those infrastructure equipments will have to be able to be validated by the client before I'll even connect to the network, before I'll go through an online sign-up flow. All of that is now validated with the PKI. So I think, again, as the security certainly does become more important, we're going to need technologies like Hotspot 2.0 to assure the public they're getting a good secure experience.
Just add a little bit to that. I mean, the IPsec tunnel is for sure for security, but it's also, of course, the means to make this work through any network, even your home network. And I guess that's the main purpose of that. So one interesting question that I think we will see here in the future, and I have no answer on this, but what if an operator owns a very secure Wi-Fi network themselves, a 1X network that is totally encrypted? As it stands today, you will still set up an IPsec tunnel. And will that really make sense? I'm not sure. So I think in a way you might see an involvement also in the standards to support two setups. One when the operator owns a very secure Wi-Fi network themselves, and one when the user is elsewhere. But that remains to be seen. But that is something I think would be interesting to.
Well, we often encrypt the tunnels between the APs and the data plane
Anyway.
control node. So you can actually have 3 levels of encryption.
Right.
Occasionally,
Right.
But that's just sort of where we're at these days.
Yeah, it is.
Fortunately, the modem chipsets are catching up to support all this.
Yeah.
And any comments from Mark or Tom about the
Well, I was
Wi-Fi
going to go back to
first?
question one for him because that one hadn't been discussed. But I think if you look at like the recent Google announcement as an MVNO, they're doing Wi-Fi and then Sprint and T-Mobile as their U.S. operators to carry their traffic. The challenges you have with Wi-Fi is I heard somebody say it has a larger footprint than cellular does today. But I would challenge you, how easy is it for you to connect to it? You've got to put in your passwords, you got to give them your email address. It's not seamless to where you can just turn your phone on and connect. So as long as those problems aren't solved, we don't see it as a challenge. We welcome it. We welcome the competition, and we'll welcome Google putting their traffic over our network when the user can't connect to Wi-Fi. So I think it's okay.